Welcome to the Brain Alpha. Today, we're diving into some genuinely revolutionary neuroscience from Nicole Vnola that actually proves your personality isn't permanently fixed. You know, if you've ever felt completely stuck in a rut, or if you've ever caught yourself thinking things like, I'm just not an optimistic person, or I'm never going to be confident, well, I have some incredible news for you. Science says otherwise. In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how your brain wires your self-perception, and way more importantly, how you can actually rewire the whole shebang.
Let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question to challenge your core beliefs. What if your personality is just a script written by your environment? We usually assume our personality is this deeply ingrained, completely immovable part of our soul, right? But neuroscientists are discovering that a massive portion of what you consider to be you is really just an accumulation of external labels and experiences, stuff your brain just absorbed over time and accepted as absolute truth.
So here's our roadmap for dismantling this myth of a fixed personality. 1. The self-recognition box. 2. The brain's hidden biases. 3. Rewiring with small successes. 4. Bypassing the brain's alarm. And 5. The power of metacognition.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the self-recognition box.
First up, we really need to understand the problem here, specifically how we construct our identities from the outside in. In the realm of neuroscience, there's this concept regarding human self-awareness that we can just call the self-recognition box. Think of it like a giant mental filing cabinet containing literally everything you believe about who you are, what you're capable of, and where you stand in the world. Since childhood, we absorb what's called observational knowledge from our family and society to build this box, and it completely dictates what level of success we think we actually deserve. I mean, think about it. When a baby learns to walk, nobody gives them a technical lecture on gravity and weight distribution, right? They just watch the adults around them, observe, and mimic. That is observational knowledge in action, and honestly, it's a brilliant survival mechanism. But the catch is, we use this exact same mechanism to absorb narratives about our identity. If your parents constantly told you, hey, you're the smart one, or you're the athletic one, your brain just filed that right into your box as a fixed reality.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real danger of those external labels. Imagine you've got two kids. One is praised endlessly for their physical talents. The other is praised only for getting straight A's. Now, if the athlete gets injured in high school, their entire self-worth basically crumbles because the only label in their box was athlete. Meanwhile, the overachiever goes off to an Ivy League college, lands some high-powered corporate job, and suddenly finds himself surrounded by people who are just as smart, if not way smarter. Because their entire identity was based purely on being the smartest in the room, they experience massive imposter syndrome and end up feeling totally worthless.
So, the crucial takeaway here is that if you struggle with self-doubt, it's not some deep flaw in your soul. It's simply an outdated box built by other people's expectations. The limits you feel right now were likely placed there by a childhood teacher, a family member, or just some random societal expectation. And hey, if someone else built that box, it means you absolutely have the power to unpack it and build a new one.
Moving on to Section 2, the brain's hidden biases. Now, let's look at how our own biology is kind of conspiring against us here. It's not just the external labels working against us. Our actual brain chemistry is heavily rigged to make us hyper-focus on our flaws. To understand evolutionary negativity bias, just think of a caveman. Remembering the dangerous bear is what kept us alive. Back in the Stone Age, if you found a bush with delicious berries, hey, that was great. But if you saw a massive bear by the river, you had to remember that bear, or you would literally die. So our ancestors who survived were the ones who hyper-fixated on negative threats. Over thousands of years, this negativity bias just got hardwired straight into our DNA. Today, we obviously don't have bears chasing us, but our brain still treats a slightly critical email from the boss like a life or death threat, causing all this unnecessary daily anxiety.
And to make matters worse, confirmation bias teams up with that negativity bias. This combo makes you hyper-focus on one single work mistake to prove you're failing, while entirely ignoring all your past successes. If your self-recognition box says, I'm bad at my job, confirmation bias makes sure you only notice the times you completely fumble a presentation. Even if 5 people praise your work, you'll dismiss them as just being polite. But if one person gives you a weird look, your brain immediately goes, aha, see, I knew I was a failure.
Which brings us to Section 3, rewiring with small successes.
All right, we know the villains, negativity bias, and confirmation bias. So let's look at the scientific solution for actually breaking these negative loops. We basically have to intentionally hijack the brain's focus. Neuroscientist Nicole Vnola suggests a really clinical approach to reframing a bad week. You do this by shifting your focus away from what went wrong and objectively identifying what actually went right. She had this one client who was trapped in a total cycle of self-hatred, claiming their entire week was a complete disaster just because they had to call in sick one day and fell a bit behind on tasks. But Vnola didn't let them just wallow. She asked them to neutrally list out exactly what happened, step by step.
Intentionally tracking these micro-successes every single day actively suppresses your brain's negativity bias and begins to rebuild your self-worth. When Vnola reviewed that client's quote-unquote disastrous week, she pointed out that recognizing they were sick and actually taking a day to rest was a massive success in self-care. And logging half a day's work while feeling absolutely awful, that's an incredible display of resilience. To rewire your personality, you've got to start writing down these tiny wins every single day. Literally write down, "I made a great cup of coffee," or "I woke up on time." It actively forces your brain out of its negative default mode.
On to Section 4. Bypassing the brain's alarm.
Okay, but why is it so insanely hard to make these new positive habits actually stick? Why do we usually give up on our shiny new optimistic mindset after like 3 days? The answer lies in the brain's built-in security system. Your brain has a well-meaning but super frustrating defense mechanism called homeostasis. It treats any major lifestyle change as a potential threat to your survival. Basically, your brain loves safety, and to your brain, safety equals the familiar. Even if your familiar state is totally miserable and self-deprecating, your brain prefers it just because it's predictable. So when you suddenly decide to be relentlessly positive and radically change your life overnight, your brain's homeostasis alarm goes absolutely crazy and violently pulls you right back to your old habits.
Think of it kind of like a speed limit on the highway. If the limit is 60 mph and you're driving 120, you are definitely triggering the brain police. But if you go just 1 mph over, you slip right past the radar. If you try to transform your entire personality in a single weekend, the brain police will pull you over and shut you down. And that is exactly why extreme diets or insane new workout routines almost always fail.
So the secret here, sneaking past homeostasis with tiny 1 mph daily habits. That's the neuroscience secret to making your positive mindset permanent. By just writing down one tiny victory a day, like, hey, the elevator arrived instantly, you are basically going 61 in a 60 zone. The brain's alarm system doesn't even notice the change. But over months, those 1 mph improvements compound, permanently rewiring your self-recognition box without ever triggering a relapse.
And finally, Section 5, the power of metacognition.
Because look, no matter how well you rewire your brain, life is still going to throw curveballs that trigger your deepest insecurities. When those bad days inevitably strike, metacognition is your ultimate emergency brake. It's the ability to step completely outside yourself and neutrally observe your thoughts. It's like taking a spill on your bike and calmly thinking, that was a weird fall, instead of just getting consumed by the pain. Have you ever been in a high-stress situation, maybe a minor fender bender, and felt like a part of your brain was just floating above you, calmly observing the chaos? That is your internal observer. It's this incredible superpower of analyzing your own thoughts as if they belong to someone else.
And here's the science behind why that works so well. Emotionally labeling your anxiety actively shifts blood flow away from the amygdala, which is your fear center, directly into the medial prefrontal cortex, your logic center. When you feel a wave of self-hatred or panic, your amygdala is just on fire. It's pure emotion. But the very second you use metacognition to objectively label that feeling, you physically force the blood and energy to move into the analytical, logical part of your brain. You are quite literally cooling down your brain's hardware.
By following these exact steps to label your emotions, you instantly cool down a panicked, self-critical brain and regain your control. So, next time you feel worthless, just imagine floating above yourself. Look down and say, I'm noticing a really strong feeling of fear right now. I'm feeling anxious that my boss thinks I'm incompetent. Just by giving it a precise, analytical label, you strip the emotion of its power. You stop being the storm, and you become the meteorologist who's simply observing the storm.
You now have the actual scientific tools to rewrite the script others gave you and take full control of your own personality. You know how that box was built, you understand the brain's negative biases, you know exactly how to sneak past the alarms with tiny wins, and you have the emergency brake of metacognition ready to go. Your personality is not fixed. It is totally fluid, and you are the one sitting in the driver's seat.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, and help us build the hype. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.